Hot Mic is brought to you by Red Wing Shoes of Fargo. Built to last. 3003 Main Avenue, Fargo.
Hot Mic with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No.
I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mic.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something.
Coach Dom Izzo, WDAY in Fargo, North Dakota.
Can you give me a layup or something?
Hot Mic. Presented by Northwestern Mutual.
That program is second to none.
On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Good Friday morning. Welcome to this tournament-filled edition of Hot Mic on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV in Sioux Falls, KNBN in Rapid City, also streaming on Inform.com. Hi, everybody. Welcome inside the Minot State Dome. We are here live for the North Dakota Division B Boys Basketball State Tournament. We had the quarterfinal games yesterday, semifinals coming up tonight. We'll give you the full recap of what we saw here on a busy day of basketball on the networks of WDAY, so that's coming up. For those of you that don't know, I'm Sam Getzinger. We're here live on location for this Friday morning edition of Hot Mic. It's got to be some sort of a record here. We're live 2 days in a row in two different parts of the state. So I think we can pat ourselves on the back on that. Dom is busy. He's got some stuff going on back in town. We got people everywhere. We're here in Minot. We got a crew down in Fargo for the Division A Boys Basketball State Tournament. We had a crew in Buffalo, New York this week. If they're not back already, covering North Dakota State men's basketball. We'll dive into that game a little bit. So we're all over, and the action never stops. So we have a lot to get to on this Friday morning. There's no doubt about that. As I mentioned, we'll look back at the Division B games. We'll look back at the Division A games that were down in the Fargo Dome yesterday. Pro Day for North Dakota State. We were live from there yesterday. We'll hear from Cole Payton and Bryce Lance coming up on the show later on this morning. And then we got some great guests joining us as well. Jeremy Weinmeister from Medina, Pingree Buchanan will join us at the bottom of the hour, talk about their big win over Midway Minto to advance to the semifinal round. We'll have our basketball analyst, Zach Dosch, joining us in the second hour of the show as well. Talk about what we've seen here over the last couple of weeks at the North Dakota State basketball tournaments, and Matt Fetsch will join us as well coming up a little bit later on to get us rolling here on this Friday morning ahead of semifinal Friday coming up later on today inside of the Minot State Dome. This has been quite the 2-month stretch for myself and our entire WDAY crew. This has been a lot of fun covering all of the state tournaments here in North Dakota. This weekend we'll wrap up that busy stretch when you count all the state tournaments. We started with wrestling at the Fargo Dome, went to hockey at Shields Arena, and then 3 weeks of basketball after that, spanning from Jamestown to Bismarck to here in Minot to Fargo. Been all over the place covering North Dakota State athletics as well. Our crew that, not just the people that you see in front of the camera, but the people behind the camera have been doing an absolutely fantastic job. It's a lot of running around, and it's been fun. It's been a long stretch here, but we're cruising, and we got a couple of more days left to go. So with that being said, like I mentioned, we got a lot going on here today. So let's hop into it. And I want to start with one of the big talkers that's been going around the whole state of North Dakota, and that is North Dakota State men's basketball. They were in the March Madness tournament yesterday for the opening round. They had a tough one against Michigan State, the 3 seed, and really Old Sparty left no doubt yesterday. So if you missed it, like I did, we'll roll you some of the clips here. It was a pretty impressive game for Michigan State. They showed why they were the number 3 seed. While we were calling games here in Minot, I was looking at the box score, and it looked like North Dakota State was holding in there for a little bit. Markai Strickland with the dunk, and then Andy Stefanowicz playing in his first NCAA tournament game, going coast to coast, looking good. So NDSU had the lead here. They would extend that with Markai Strickland doing well down in the post, and then really once we got to the midway point of the first half, Michigan State, they took over from there. It was pretty impressive. That three going down from Jackson Kohler. He had three three-pointers in the game. Tay Smith, he left Buffalo with a couple of triples as well. That's great to see he was continuing that because he was on fire all season from beyond the arc. And then the dunk contest ensued, if you will, for Michigan State. It was really impressive what they were able to do. Noah Fetterson added to it with a two-hand jam of his own. The Summit League sixth man of the year got about 20 minutes in the game and 7 points, and this one was impressive. Cohen Carr rising up on the alley-oop. We talked so much this week about his leaping ability. It was on display. And then right down Broadway here, the game of the day went to Carson Cooper. 20 points, 30 minutes, 7 of 9 from the field and 10 rebounds. He had a double-double. It was hard to stop the 6'11" big man, and they were knocking down threes. For those filling out a March Madness bracket and they had Michigan State going far, this is the type of game that they wanted to see. Left no doubt against a lower-seeded opponent, North Dakota State, who came in at number 14. It was impressive all around. There's nothing you can do but tip your cap to it. There's no doubt about that. Damari Wheeler-Thomas, he was phenomenal yesterday. He finished with a team-high 16 points, knocked down a couple of triples as well, 5 of 11 from the field. So it was good to see him, after all that he's been through in his college career, bounce back a little bit here and have a good showing. He hits this corner three to make it a 76-59 game with 5 minutes left to go. And then Riley Saunders got into the game. A lot of guys that didn't see a ton of minutes throughout the year got some experience on the NCAA tournament floor, which was really cool to see. But 92-67, the final score. And again, is it a shock? No, not necessarily. At the end of the day, as I mentioned, Damari Wheeler-Thomas finishes with 16 points to lead the way. Travion Carson had a solid game as well. 11 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. That's a performance we've seen from him pretty much all season long, so he continued that trend. Trayson Anderson, 10 points. Markai Strickland just had the 6. Michigan State did a good job of shutting them down towards the stretch, and Andy Stefanowicz had 6 as well. Noah Fetterson with 7. In total, looking down at the box score here, North Dakota State shot 44% from the field. Pretty good number there. Ice cold from beyond the arc. And if you want to make an upset bid in the NCAA tournament, need a little stronger performance there. They shot 24%, 6 of 25. A little uncharacteristic for North Dakota State. And like I mentioned, if you want to knock off a top team like Michigan State, you got to knock down those threes. You got to have some lucky breaks, and that just it wasn't in the game for North Dakota State. And really, the size for Michigan State, the athleticism was really impressive. It was on full display. 6'8", 6'9". 6'11". It was all across the board so good. As I mentioned, Carson Cooper had 20 points and 10 rebounds. You saw his big dunk. Cohen Carr finished with 17 as well. Cam Ward, not that Cam Ward, not the one you're thinking of, not the quarterback, but Michigan State's Cam Ward. He came in off the bench and had 13 points on 6 of 6 from the field. So all around they were clicking, shot 59% from the field. You'll win a lot of games if you shoot at that mark. They were also 10 for 20 from beyond the arc. So again, going into this game in Buffalo, New York to open up the NCAA tournament, did some people think North Dakota State was going to win? Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Of course, you got to leave room for a little Cinderella story. There's no doubt. But Michigan State was the favorite in this one. I think the line coming in was 16.5. They got well over that in this game. But this is a team that, although this side of the bracket is very good, this is a team that can make a run. Sweet 16, Elite 8, maybe the Final Four. You don't know. Duke didn't look great yesterday in their win against Siena. UConn is on that side as well. I got UConn going pretty far. St. John's is over there too as a sneaky 5 seed. Kansas, if I'm not mistaken, is in the mix over there. But I think Michigan State can really make a run there, and they did exactly what they needed to do. They left no doubt, and they got the job done. So now North Dakota State's the men's basketball team, their season comes to an end, an historic year, and a round of applause has to go out to them. They end the season 27-8, really impressive. A Summit League championship. That is great. Anytime you can win a conference championship in the dog days of the season like that and go through that 3-game stretch against some really good teams and get the win, that's impressive. I think we also need to tip the cap on what Dave Richmond was able to do this year for North Dakota State men's basketball. I know a lot of the conversation coming into the season, there were so many questions about what this team was going to be like after losing Jackson Money and that really good squad from last year that came up just short in the Summit League tournament. That team, I think myself, you can lump me into that conversation as well. I didn't know how this group that they put together through freshmen coming in and transfer portal additions, I didn't know how they would stack up to last year's group. And really, as the year went on, it was impressive. You got a bunch of guys that came in that had never played Division I basketball before, and you found out quickly that, okay, these guys can play. And Dave Richmond's a pretty good coach. Tom Izzo said that as well in the press conference. Speaking of which, here's what Dave and the players and also what Tom Izzo had to say after the game yesterday.
Pretty much what we expected, you know what I mean? And a couple of our finishes were not physical like we needed them to be, and that's why they ended up the way they did.
Travian, I'll follow up on that. You guys got off to a tough start shooting threes, and Coach Izzo mentioned he thought you guys, didn't play as well as you probably wanted to, and part of it was not making shots. Was that just their defense that was making it tough on you to make threes and shoot it?
No, I don't think so. I think we was getting what we wanted. We just wasn't capitalizing on the opportunities we got.
Dave, I asked these guys about the physicality difference, and once you see it in person, is it different in person?
Yeah, it's different, Jeff. It is, and you can see it on tape, and it's one thing you can try to simulate it with our scout team and all those things, but it's different. This is a high major program, and it showed. I mean, and their speed, their physicality, their length, it's a challenge. And the more we saw it, obviously, I think the second half was a little bit of tell to that. The more comfortable you get, the more you understand it, the more you're okay. Like we're capable of these things. But in a one-off like this, it just takes too long. It's too quick. It just happens too quick. At the end of the day, we got here and we got to the NCAA tournament doing us. So that's going to be a big part of what we do. And, we tweaked some ball screen coverages, immediately going into the game and tried to do some things to slow down fears differently than we had done the entire year. But then we also, we talk about it as a staff, like last ditch. What do we need to do? What kind of adjustments can we make? And part of that was playing small, some defensive adjustments. At the end of the day, we can sit here and spin this anyway. Michigan State was clearly the better basketball team today. We were down 26 or something like that, and it cut it to 17. And that's what I've come to expect from this group. It's the program I want it to be defined by tough and together. And you saw some of those things. Problem is, we went against a program that has a lot of toughness and a lot of togetherness as well. But extremely proud of the fight from our group and playing the full 40 minutes.
Coach Izzo from Michigan State had a lot of kind things to say about NDSU and the coaching job over there as well after yesterday's game. So congratulations to Michigan State. They're moving on in commanding fashion. And to wrap up my point from before, tip of the cap goes to Dave Richmond and this crew for exceeding a lot of people's expectations this year, making it to the NCAA tournament and putting together a really fun run to watch. It's going to be sad not seeing them anymore this season, but they did a fantastic job. There's no doubt about that. Dom's going to have more on the men's basketball season to kind of put a bow on things coming up next week. We'll have Jeff Kolpak in studio on Monday. Mike McFeely will join us on Tuesday, and so will Dave Richmond. All of them were in Buffalo covering this game, Jeff and Mike. So we'll hear from both of them coming up next week. So after that game was all done yesterday, the Bison women, they were back at home at the Shack yesterday in the opening round of the WBIT. They had Chattanooga to start things yesterday in the opening round. First of all, it's just great to see that they're still playing here at this point of the year in mid-March, and yesterday to start the WBIT tournament. It was impressive. If you missed it, here's some of the highlights from North Dakota State's win over Chattanooga. Again, a reminder for you, these games are on ESPN Plus, not on WDAY. We are producing them, however, so Dom and Amy had the call of this game, and this was a typical performance from North Dakota State women's basketball that we have been used to seeing throughout the season. Avery Kunin had another double-double. She was impressive. 11 rebounds, had 16 points to go with that. In all, North Dakota State had 4 players in double-digit scoring, which is really impressive. The only struggle they had was with Kaya Elisaldevs, excuse me, trying to get that name correctly. Luckily, Dom was on the call for that one, but she had a good game, 33 points. She was the main scoring threat for Chattanooga, and the final score was 75-62. So North Dakota State was able to advance after the opening round of the WBIT. Carrington Asp had a good game off of the bench. She had 13 points to help guide the way here for North Dakota State. Really good freshman season from her. So again, 75-62 the final score. North Dakota State, who is the 1 seed in this WBIT tournament, they advance. Kunin led the way, double-double. Jossie Schiller had 14. Marissa Frost, a good game as well, 10 points. Abby Kraswinski, 9 points from her. Molly Lenz had 7. And also in the score column was Amelia Hobson and Abby Graham. So the train keeps on rolling for North Dakota State women's basketball. The season ends for Chattanooga. A fun start to this WBIT tournament. After the game, this is what Coach Collins and the players had to say on their win against the Mocs.
It's what you're doing it for. I'll never be one of those guys, Dom, that dismisses anything that happens in November, December, January, and February, because that's basketball is a 5-6 month grind. The season is long. It's a full 5 months of playing if you go well into March, and to be able to consistently play at a good level like our kids have is something I'll be proud of them for a really long time. This is a group I'll remember for a long time. So I want this group to keep going because I've enjoyed them so much, and I think they've enjoyed each other. So every single time we get to practice or play a game together is going to be great with me.
I mean, I definitely felt like that, just kind of getting the rust off a little bit. But just to go out and still play with this group is so fun, and we're just a competitive group. So I think that we kind of were able to put that past us for a little bit and just compete today.
Jossie, Jordy said that your ankles, you said about 80%. How playing tonight, playing as well offensively, how much does that maybe ease the pain a little bit?
Yeah, obviously it's nice to see some shots going down, especially just with the ankle going on. But, I mean, once you're out there, you don't feel it too much. It doesn't affect you as much. So I'm just going to kind of do what I normally do out there to help our team.
Your first chance to play postseason basketball. What was this like tonight for you?
Yeah, it was super fun. I think it was just exciting to get to compete again, and obviously taking that break and just getting out there to play a different team. And it was just super fun with this group.
Every year you've been here, team has won a postseason game. How big a deal is that for this program?
Yeah, it's really exciting, to get to continue playing after your regular season. It says a lot about a program and a lot about where a program is going. My freshman year, we were in the WNIT. Last year, we made it farther in that, and then now we're in, the next level of the tournament. So it's just really exciting to be a part of a program that's moving in that direction.
So here's what the updated WBIT tournament bracket looks like as of right now. You see North Dakota State in the top right corner. They have Columbia, who is the 4 seed. They came off one heck of a win against St. John's the other day, 74-26. What happened over there? So to me, Columbia is intriguing. As I mentioned, 4 seed in this tournament, but they've been right there with North Dakota State in the mid-major rankings. If you look at that, in the net rankings, they're in at 59 last I checked. So outside of South Dakota State, and this is in my opinion, I think this is the toughest test for North Dakota State. And it comes in a do-or-die game in the second round of the WBIT. So that game is on Sunday. Last I saw, and I'll double check for you, but last I saw the game is on Sunday at 1 inside of the Shack. Yes, it is. So Sunday at 1 is the tip-off against Columbia. And that game, again, on ESPN+. But if you have the opportunity and if you want to watch some more basketball this weekend, head on over there. That should be a really fun game. So 1 o'clock for that. Dom and Amy will have the call. Our crew will be putting that together. So we're looking forward to that. And hopefully NDSU can continue on with a good run. But Columbia's coming into town. 2 teams back-to-back with similar C logos. So hopefully there's some good mojo there. With that being said, we got to step aside here to start off this Friday morning episode on Hot Mic. A lot of great guests coming in today as well. As I mentioned at the bottom of the hour, Jeremy Weinmeister will come and join us here inside of the Minot State Dome. He is the head coach of Medina Pingree Buchanan, the 5 seed in this Division B boys basketball state tournament that put together a really, really impressive game yesterday. So they advanced the semis. We'll hear from Coach Weinmeister in a little bit. Zach Dosch will join us to start hour number 2. Our WDAY basketball analyst. We'll talk about the state tournaments we've seen over the last couple of weeks, this March Madness bracket as well. A lot to get to with our guy, Zach. Then at 10:35, Matt Fetsch, the NDHSAA Executive Director, will join us to wrap up the morning, talk about what's going on across North Dakota high school athletics and a whole lot more. So that's coming up as we continue on with this Friday morning edition of Hot Mic. Here's what we got coming up today and tomorrow. Of course, today is semifinal Friday. We'll start here in Minot at 1 o'clock, and then our second semifinal game at 2:45. The boys A semifinals at 6:30 and 8:15 tonight from the Fargo Dome, and then we'll wrap up the weekend with Championship Saturday. We'll start with the third place game of the boys A in Fargo at 3 o'clock. That'll be followed up by the Championship at 5. Our Division B third place game will be on WDAY Extra at 6, and then our Championship, we got the late one here at the Minot State Dome at 8 o'clock. So that's coming up today and tomorrow. Of course, all the consolation semifinals available on WDAY Plus throughout the rest of the weekend here. We had a lot of basketball in both locations for quarterfinal Thursday. So let's rip through everything that we saw yesterday, and we'll start in the Division B bracket in our first game of the day between the Ray Jays and the North Star Bearcats. If you missed it, what a fun one this was. And the state, if you didn't know him already, you got introduced to this man, the freshman Ty Barman, who was absolutely unbelievable. He had 26 points, 12 rebounds, 3 blocks, 4 steals, 2 huge dunks, including this one here. And again, he is just a freshman. Some really ridiculous finishes around the rim. So impressive. So the Ray Jays, who we've had so many times on this show, they win 85-60. A really good group to watch and a really young group to watch. I imagine they'll be around for a while. Our second game was a battle of Minot between our Redeemers and Bishop Ryan. It was a typical battle between these two teams. Our Redeemers pulled away eventually. Nolan Schmidt and Wyatt Weekly, really good game out of both of them. Schmidt had 26. Wyatt Weekly had 14. It was just a tough day shooting for the defending state champs in Bishop Ryan, who this is practically a home game for both of those teams. Bishop Ryan shares a parking lot here at the Minot State Dome. So the Knights advanced. Final score of that one was 57-32. So that brought us into our evening session up here in the Magic City between the 1 seed Central McLean and the 8 seed Nelson County. I had not seen Central McLean until this quarterfinal game, and holy cow, that is a really, really good basketball team. There's a reason why they are the number 1 seed in this Division B tournament. Super, super unselfish, always looking for the open shooters. Now, give credit to Nelson County. There was just one bad corner that really created a lot of that created a lot of separation. And then they held their own for the next 3 quarters. But Central McLean, so good. Aiden Hansen, he led the way. Mr. Do-It-All, 13 points, 6 assists, 4 blocks, and 5 steals in the game. So the Cougars are in the semifinals, and they will take on the winner of our final game between Medina Pingree Buchanan and Midway Minto. Gage Hoffman had a night to remember for the Thunder from Medina, Pingree, Buchanan. 31 points, 20 rebounds. That was our performance of the day, back and forth, really until the fourth quarter when the Thunder were able to pull away in this one. We'll talk more about that with their coach, Jeremy Weinmeister, coming up in just a couple of minutes. So that's all the Division B boys games from yesterday. And as I mentioned, our semifinals are tomorrow at 1 and at 2:45. It's Ray and Our Redeemers. Should be a great game. That's a rematch of the region championship. And then Central McLean and Medina, Pingree, Buchanan at 2:45. That's the 1-5 matchup. Intrigued for that one. Over at the Fargo Dome in the Class A games, a great slate yesterday that was on WDAY Extra. If you missed it, here's some of the highlights from yesterday. Started with Central Cass and Turtle Mountain. The Squirrels, they may not be the tallest team around, but they're quick and they can shoot the ball really well. Cash Lorenz had 23 points on 5 3-pointers. As a team, Central Cass 41% from the field, from beyond the arc, I should say. Just really impressive. So they get the 72-58 win over Turtle Mountain to advance to the semifinal round. In our second quarterfinal game, it was Shiloh Christian against Four Winds Minnewacan, and we saw our first upset of the day. Shiloh was on the back of a 21-point performance from Dawson Davis. And that first quarter, it really was the difference in this game. The Four Winds Minnewacan Indians only had 6 to Shiloh's 13, and they were able to outscore them the rest of the way. So Shiloh Christian, the 6th seed, advances into the semis. And then we followed that up with Devils Lake against Dunseith, and Devils Lake so good inside of the Fargo Dome over the last couple of years. 68-39 was the final score. 30 points from Mason Palmer. His twin brother Max had 15 as well. Of course, that duo won the Dakota Bowl in that building earlier this season, looking to go 2 in a row from the top-seeded Firebirds from Devils Lake. And then over there in Division A, they wrap things up with Beulah and Wahpeton. A tight one to end the night, 56-51 the final score. The Miners were able to extend the lead in a tight one late in the game. They got 21 points from Philip Widener and 18 from Braylon Sherrado to get the win over the Wahpeton Huskies. So the semifinal round is set in Division A as well. Again, they got the late ones coming up tomorrow. 6:30 between Central Cass and Shiloh Christian, and then 8:15 between Devils Lake and Beulah. All those games available on WDAY. And again, a reminder for you, everybody looking for the consolation semifinals and the 5th and 7th place games coming up over the next couple of days. You can find those on WDAY+. With that being said, we're going to talk more about this tournament in just a moment. Let's step aside. When we come back, we'll welcome in Jeremy Weinmeister from Medina, Pingree, Buchanan, talk about their big game from yesterday. That's coming up on Hot Mic. Welcome back inside of the Minot State Dome. Semifinal Friday coming up here for the Division B Boys Basketball State Tournament. We'll have the semifinal games coming up for you later on this afternoon on WDAY. We had quite the day, as we showed you just a little bit ago on quarterfinal Thursday. Our game of the day was the 4-5 matchup to wrap up the evening between Midway Minto and Medina Pingree Buchanan. And we're lucky to have the head coach of the Thunder, Jeremy Weinmeister, joining us after his big win. First of all, congratulations on that one. How quick was the celebration after? Because it's a tight turnaround to today.
It was, allow them to celebrate for the night, and then we just get up this morning, get ready to go. Those boys, they were excited.
Yeah.
The other thing, I think a little bit right after they got in there, they were just celebrating the whole thing, really happy, and then you could hear Tarek even say, "Hey, we got to go again tomorrow. Here we go."
Tell me about that game a little bit. Midway Minto came out. Obviously, the Robinson twins were really good. They had a hot start. You guys kept in there, and then it was really back and forth in the first half the whole way, and then some separation in the fourth. How were you guys able to do that?
Just the resiliency of who we are. We've been battle tested the whole entire year, and just that ability to be continue to hustle and be scrappy through it all. We don't just get down and just stay there. We're always fighting. And so that's, the boys just really felt that. They just felt like if we could just break them, And that's where kind of we're getting. I guess almost we'd fight like Rocky, unfortunately. And
well, he won quite a bit, didn't he?
He did. But it's like we want to just allow them to hit, and try to wear us down, and it just doesn't work like that. And so I wish we'd just come out and just do a little of Muhammad Ali on them, but we like to do the Rocky thing a little bit more.
It's exciting. I will say that. From a fan watching, it's exciting. And again, we'll show some video here of the game yesterday, 74-62, the win over Midway Minto, the 4 seed. You got to tell me about Gage Hoffman. He had 31 points and 20 rebounds. Is that a common stat line for him, or because it didn't feel like a Herculean effort to get to that number yesterday?
Yeah, no, it's probably not as common. Like he averaged 19 and 12 throughout the season. Last night I think Gage just kind of said, I'm going to take it by storm and do it myself a little bit. A little bit of it too is we found the mismatch that we wanted to have, and that was the mismatch that we found for it. They made an adjustment in the second half, put number 10 a little bit more athletic, physical on Gage on that. Gage is just quick. That's a quick big man right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And his spin move is crazy. And we didn't start out rebounding really well, and I got after him in the huddle, and I said, listen, we've got to attack every board. They cannot get boards at all. We ended up with 48 rebounds.
It was really impressive. Yeah. The margin was pretty significant.
From 48 to 19, it was 19 to 12 at halftime, us in the lead on it. And I said, we cannot have that. And that's how we win the game, is we make sure we get there's no second chances. We are going to get the rebound. We're going to challenge every single shot no matter what. And that's just how we play. And you saw it with the blocks. They just showed a block on there, actually, a couple of them. But even like those like that, it's just, Chase Ova, just he's sneaky. I mean, just a sneaky guy.
That is a good way to describe him. I noticed that yesterday,
Unbelievably sneaky when he gets in there, and he just can drive. He'll be able to dish in there. And, Gage is just, man, he's a big kid with athletic ability and just can move. He can shoot. He can move on down there. And so he's a hard person to guard. It's going to be interesting today watch him with the guy from Central McLean.
Aiden Hansen, who had a really good game. We'll talk about your matchup coming up here in a little bit. A couple other players I wanted to touch on yesterday. Tarek Kinzel was great. I loved his energy after making a 3 and letting the entire stadium hear it too. That was awesome. Trevin Beam came in the fourth quarter, put up 10 points right away. That kind of iced the game a little bit. And then you mentioned Chase Ova as well, a sneaky guy. It's not just Gage doing all the work here for you guys.
No, it hasn't been just one person the whole entire year. We got 4 guys in double figures, and we got 2 others that average 6 and 5. So, and that's kind of the key that we want. If we have those double figures and we go through that, and I think the key for us is our 5th guy. Whether it's Trevin or it's Kyson Uran, who's a freshman, like those guys can go off on different nights, and it's kind of interesting. And if Trevin can figure out he's big, he's athletic, and he can drive, I mean, my goodness, when he gets that in his head, he does really, really well. So really proud of what he was able to overcome. He overcame a lot for himself, had a little bit of a lull in the season where it's just kind of like, some stresses, I think, from taking the ACTs and stuff like that.
Oh, trust me, we've all been there. I don't blame him. I don't blame him.
But he came alive, and that was really fun to watch him, and it was good for the boys, and they just all came together on that. And Tarek, he is a spark plug.
Yes, yep.
A little spark plug. And when you get him rolling and get him where he's able to just talk and that energy, you better watch out, man.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Once he started knocking down some threes there, you could tell the momentum was shifting, and he was a fun player to watch. What I find so interesting about your group, and maybe I'm looking at it wrong, but if I'm not mistaken, you guys didn't play anybody in the tournament field during the regular season. So went in a little bit blind, if you will, but it's not like you guys had an easy stretch to get here by any means.
Oh, no, not an easy stretch at all. Our district was hard. We started off really hot, undefeated, and then we went through a lull in district. That's where all our games were lost. It was just on our district.
Yeah.
And, that I think a little bit of them learning how to be a top team. When you're like a lot of these guys out here, they've been top teams for a long time.
Right.
We're learning how to be a top team.
Right.
Like that was my speech through them all years. You got to learn how to do this, how to feel that pressure of everybody on you. And so we kept talking about it, even through the lulls. And they came on in the district, like district tournament. We went in as a 5 seed, which is really low.
Yep.
Won our first game, lost to Linton, which is a battle. It's a battle for us. Linton, if they can get going, and so we only lost by 4. So, but we had our own mistakes that would happen. Ended up getting played Hankinson first round of the region.
That's not easy.
No, that's not an easy game. I don't know if anybody saw that game. That was an epic game right there. And so the winner go home, and the boys just like, we don't want to go home tonight.
Right.
We don't want to go home. And we had him, and Rashawn hits a 3 over Drew Hoffman.
Yep.
It was long.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, and it sends overtime, but the boys are resilient. They never quit. They will never quit. They're going to fight through the whole entire thing. I won't let them quit. I'll guarantee that.
Now that you say it, I think Rocky is a great comparison for your team. Just based off of what you're describing and what we saw, I think that is spot on. I wanted to ask you, so you had the late game last night, and now it's a fairly quick turnaround into today. What does the morning look like for you guys? Is it a disadvantage or advantage to go back-to-back like this?
Some parts might be an advantage because we're used to that ability to be able to get back up and work. And so, do I necessarily like an early game? No.
Yeah.
All of us like the night shift a little bit more sometimes. But for these boys, I think they're, like you said, they're resilient. They're able to jump back through it, and we know this is a big game for us.
Yeah.
Some parts of it probably maybe to prove who we are. Still kind of in that aspect. Still, even think about it, we're a top 4 team at the moment.
Yep.
And that is a huge accomplishment. But we have one goal at the beginning of the season. Everybody's goal is to hold up that trophy, and that's what we kept saying. There's a lot of trophies you can hold, but the one you want to hold is that number 1 at the end.
Yeah.
And so that's what our focus is going to be. I think it's going into this, it's going to be a quick turnaround, but I think the boys will be ready.
I think so. They'll be fine. Now, granted, you got a tough opponent ahead, Central McLean, the 1 seed. Did you get an opportunity to see them yesterday before your game? What'd you think?
They're a lot like us in some ways.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
They play tough defense, really smothering defense. We can do that really well at times. They're probably maybe somewhat a little bit more athletic, but it's the resiliency that's going to come into that aspect.
Yeah.
That we can take the punches and keep going.
Right.
And to watch them, they're fast. They're able to get up and down the court. They're all over you, all 5. Like, they're just working together as one unit, and it's fun to watch them. I look forward to the challenge. You want, as a good team, you want that challenge.
Right.
Like, you want that challenge to go take that and see, who are we? What can we do through this? And so nobody probably expects us to do anything, honestly. And that's okay.
That's fair. I mean, it's a really good team. They're 26-0 right now, but like you said, being the underdog, being the Rocky of this tournament field, it should be a good game. You guys do pair up really well. We were looking at the numbers between you guys and Midway Minto. It was like looking at a mirror in the season statistics, but found a way to win that game. I looked behind me at certain points yesterday, and I saw just the sea of fans you guys brought. This means so much for Medina, Pingree, and Buchanan, doesn't it?
No, yeah, it's huge for them. I mean, just the send-off that they had. You have almost 3 pep rallies in some sense between everything and the parades and everything that goes on with that, the whole entire place. And what you probably don't even know, but they opened up a theater in Jamestown.
Oh,
and there's more fans watching. They had to they opened up one of the theaters, like one of the where you watch a movie, and it was full.
Really?
Okay,
chairs. So we'll give them a shout out today. What you're saying, we'll have to do that. That's awesome.
Bison 6 theater there. They're going to actually open up another part of the theater tomorrow or today for the game.
Okay.
So I can't imagine what it'll be like for the state championship game.
It'd be rowdy.
But that's just how the fans are. Like, they're really into who we are. And when we start just going to these things, everybody's jumping behind. And the fans are here. There's students here. They're excited.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you and I were talking before coming on the air here. You're originally from Montana, so this is a fairly new experience for you. What are the thoughts on the state tournament here at the Minot State Dome?
It's a different animal, man.
Yeah.
It's a different animal. Montana has basketball for sure. You know what I compare it to is a lot of like the reservation games.
Yeah.
That's a different animal. Like when you have a lodge grass going against a Hardin, or those types of games, or even like we have rivalries in Billings, Montana. It would be like Central, which is a private school in Billings, and they play Laurel. I mean, the rivalry is huge. You feel the Metro, which the Metro fills 6,000. So, and it's kind of like one of those things, and that's what the feeling is like the whole time here.
Right.
And that's just crazy.
That's a fair point. Yeah. Once this place fills up, and you'll see it today and tomorrow, it's a different feeling here.
It's a different feel. And just the energy of the basketball and the basketball and the basketball. And just hearing people talk about, what happened over here at A? What happened over here at B? Oh, look what's happening here. Oh, my God. And the advantages of all the different challenges that go into that. Like some will take us. We're a small school, different area like that. Now we're going up against some big giants in this whole entire thing. A sleeper through it all. And just to watch that type of stuff is really fun.
So you've been coaching here at Medina, Pingree, Buchanan for 2 years.
Yep.
What have you thought about Class B basketball in North Dakota? Do you have anything that you've really taken away over the last couple of seasons?
Well, it's a little bit different than the Class like C in Montana. Similar in some ways. Small towns really excited about what they got, but the Class B basketball is it's like this energy.
Yeah.
That's constant on that. And like the whole town gets involved.
Right.
And it's probably the fact of like they're smaller towns, maybe under 1,000 or something like that. And so the whole town gets involved into it. And like you said, with the fans coming, the people coming, the energy is epic through it. It's kind of like this is their professional team.
Right, exactly.
You know, like they're not going to maybe rock the Chicago Bulls, who I like, and stuff like that. I don't watch the NBA as much anymore. But, you know, all those types of things. But this is their team. You know, they rock it wherever they go. And so that's their pride and joy.
Yeah.
And you know what's really cool is in these here, you see a lot of old-timers just sitting here watching games.
Right. No affiliation with anybody. They just want to come and watch.
They just want to come and watch. And that's the thing about the basketball I can see here. It's just people, they just want to come and sit and watch.
Right.
They enjoy the game. They enjoy watching the kids play. Oh, man, check this out. So that's really exciting.
Yeah.
And like I said, we'll probably feel a lot more energy today.
Yep.
And then tomorrow it's going to be epic energy.
There's no doubt. Whatever game it is, it's going to be fantastic. And obviously, you got a bunch of people pulling for you guys. It's going to be fun today. I know you got to get ready for this one, get a little bit of rest, so we'll cut you loose. I appreciate you for joining us. Thanks so much. Jeremy Weinmeister from Medina, Pingree, Buchanan, joining us on this Friday morning edition of Hot Mic. Their semifinal coming up at 2:45. Am I right on that? Yes, I am, against Central McLean. I didn't want to scare you there. So 2:45, we'll have that for you on WDAY. Ray and our Redeemers coming up at 1 o'clock later on this afternoon on WDAY as well. We'll cut you loose. I appreciate you joining us. Hot Mic continues when we come back on WDAY Extra. All right, guys. We found my old wrestling highlight tape. I told them in the commercial break I wanted to talk about Bison Wrestling. I didn't say I wanted to relive my glory days here. So if you haven't seen this clip before, and for those of you that don't know, I used to wrestle back for the powerhouse of New Prague back in the day in southern Minnesota. I won a second grade state championship. Or I should say a big tournament in second grade. I don't know exactly if it was the state tournament. The half Nelson, as you can see, was my move. But I think this is a fitting segue to wrap up hour number one. That's a good pin. Nice job, Little Sam. Proud of you. I wanted to spend a little bit of time and give some flowers to North Dakota State Wrestling. Of course, the NCAA championships are underway right now in Cleveland, Ohio. Some impressive performances to pass along over the last couple of days, or yesterday, I should say. Max Peterson and Ezekiel Witt, they are moving on to day 2 of the NCAA championships. Both of them, they lost their opening matches of the NCAA championships, and then they would bounce back in the night session. So they would finish 1-1, and that's good enough to continue on. And if you lose a match in that opening round, then you got to go through the long way here to find the podium. The top 8 get All-American honors, so those 2 are still in the running. In total for NDSU, 5 guys made it to the NCAA championships. I wrote him down here. Devin Wasley was one of them. Aiden Bruneau was in there as well. And Gavin Drexler. All 3 of them fell in their first 2 matches of the day. So they're out of contention here. But Ezekiel Witt and is moving on, and Max Peterson, who has really had an up and down year, and it's good to see that he's finding success towards the end of the season. Ezekiel Witt, a young, scrappy lightweight here for North Dakota State Wrestling, has been really impressive all season long. I think he leads the team in wins and takedowns and near falls, you name it. So we'll see if those 2 can move on here a little bit. Right now, I was looking at the team standings. NDSU is 44th out of 70. Penn State is at the top, and they have a commanding lead over Nebraska. And if you followed along with college wrestling even a little bit, you know that Penn State is here. Everybody else is about 20 steps below them because they are just that much of a juggernaut. And the roster that they have this season is so good. There's plenty of guys that wrestled inside of the shack this season that are still going. The first one that pops into my mind is younger Bastida at 285 pounds from Iowa State. He's still moving on in the NCAA championships. He's really fun. He reminds me a little bit of Gable Steveson. I don't know if he had the athleticism as Gable, but younger is pretty talented, and he wrestled inside of the shack against North Dakota State earlier this season. So that is going to continue on throughout the weekend. I wanted to just give an update and give a shout out to those guys. Just one for making it to the championships in Cleveland, Ohio, and for winning a couple of matches as well to move on to the next day. That's pretty impressive. So if you want to follow along with that, I believe we'll have updates for that on the news on WDAY over the weekend as well if these guys continue on. So be on the lookout for that. I'm glad you could watch my highlight tape as well to wrap up your Friday morning, I should say. Also, during that break, I was taking a look at my March Madness bracket. I can tell you right now, it's not the greatest thing in the world. Luckily, my pick for Duke survived. Everything else, Michigan State. I did pick Michigan State, and that worked out. Vanderbilt won for me. My big pick was VCU. Now, my Cinderella, if you want to call him that, is St. John's. That's in my bracket. Now, I'm in so many challenges in whatnot right now, but the one that I want to win. And I go every year head-to-head with my mom for NCAA March Madness. She has Villanova making it to the Final Four. I thought she was crazy when she sent me a picture of the bracket. I think she chooses based on who has a cooler logo, so she thought this year Villanova was going to make a deep run. There's like an 8 or 9 seed or something like that. My Cinderella pick, if you will, is St. John's at a 5 seed. I think they're going to go fairly far, at least to the Elite 8. I don't think they'll make it to the Final Four, but that's my non-expertise college basketball picks in the NCAA tournament. With that being said, hour number 1, it has come and it is gone. Big thank you to Jeremy Weinmeister for joining us, talking a little bit about Medina Pingree Buchanan basketball. Fun team to watch. They're going to have their hands full today against the Central McLean squad. That's 26-0. Their semifinal coming up at 2:45. We got our Redeemers and Ray coming up at 1 o'clock. Those are the 2B semifinal games. And then later on this evening, the Class A semifinals from the Fargo Dome. So we'll give you a full update and a reminder on that once we come up later on in the show. In a couple of minutes, Zach Dosch is going to join us. We'll talk about what we've seen here at the Division B tournament, also a little college basketball as well. So that's coming up when we come back on this Friday morning edition of Hot Mic.
This is Hot Mic.
Hot Mic.
On the networks of WDAY.
WDAY.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Welcome back on this Friday morning edition of Hot Mic from the Minot State Dome. There's a look at the Fargo Dome down in the Metro. Of course, the Division A semifinals coming up later on this evening. You can catch those ones on WDAY. Here this afternoon in Minot, you can listen to this guy, Zach Dosch, and myself, as we'll have the Division B semifinals coming up at 1 o'clock and at 2:45. Zach, I appreciate you taking some time this morning. Thanks for coming on here before we get ready for another long day.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's always fun to chat it up with you, and we have a nice long day in front of us.
Absolutely. Like I've said before, we got the semis today. We got the championships tomorrow, third place games as well, a whole lot going on. Let's talk about tomorrow a little bit and what we saw here in the Division B tournament. That's where all of our attention was. I thought the day in total, and we'll talk about the teams, but the day in total there was some big wins for these teams. Of course, we had an exciting one at the end, but there was good moments all throughout the day.
Yeah, I mean, I think every team had their moment at one point or another. You know, I think the thing that I always wonder about coming into this tournament is just, okay, so how many teams are in that top tier?
Yeah.
How many are true contenders? Some years it's 1, some years it's 4, some years it's 8. You know, you just never really know, and I think yesterday we kind of identified that, and so everybody had their shot. Now tonight we get to move on to a really competitive semifinal. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
I think think the semis are going to be great, and we're seeing some video here from yesterday. And a team that really stood out in our first game was the Ray Jays, and we got introduced to Ty Barman and how exciting of a freshman he is.
Yeah, we're definitely slow to the news on that one as it relates to basketball, but the college football coaches are obviously all over him, and you saw why yesterday. I mean, he's really a unique profile. I mean, that combination of size and speed and athleticism is just very unique. I mean, he just looks a lot different than the other players, but he's also a good player too. Knocked down a couple threes and really got out in the transition, and they're a fun team to watch. They're exciting. They're never going to be out of it. They play hard. They play a simple but fast and really effective brand of basketball.
I found it interesting with Ray, and they're not afraid to tell you too. Of course, we had Coach Bergstrom on the show here as well, that they're a flashy team, and fans have fun when they watch them, and you saw that quickness getting up and down the floor, and those dunks and those fancy finishes, and he nailed it on the head. They were fun, and they're young too, so they're going to be a problem for a little bit.
I mean, it fits their personality. I mean, it's the way that they play the best. I mean, it looks like there's a lot going on, but reality, it's fairly simple. They want to play really hard, really fast, and no matter what, no matter the score, and I think that works really well. I mean, very similar to like maybe Bismarck High and AA or something like that. That style works very well. It's very effective in high school because kids can do it really well, and it's also hard to prepare for because your JV usually can't give you the same type of look.
So they are the 2 seed in this tournament. They will play in the first semifinal game. They'll go up against our Redeemers, who we saw in a game against Bishop Ryan. It was a rematch of last year's state semifinal game that went to overtime. And our Redeemers, they really left no doubt. It was a much slower game than what we saw Ray put together against North Star to start the day. But this our Redeemers team, they return a lot from last year, and they're pretty impressive.
And they're really skilled, and you can tell they've been in the weight room and all this, and so they've really been prepared, really been thinking about this moment since last year, and we'll see how much progress they've made since last year.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Nolan Schmidt had a really good game. Wyatt Weekly is a 6'3" guard who he could really protect the rim yesterday, which really stood out to us.
Yeah, a lot of really versatile players, and they just do a good job playing. I mean, they played that Ryan team for the 3rd time. There was no miscommunication or no mysteries out there as to what Ryan wanted to do, and yet our Redeemers were still able to execute.
The evening games yesterday were interesting. We saw Nelson County, the 8 seed, against the 1 seed Central McLean, and 25-0 for Central McLean going into that game. A lot of people may not have seen them before the state tournament, and what they saw yesterday was a very unselfish group. It was fun to watch.
A very unselfish group, and probably the most complete game that we saw.
Yeah,
I mean, on both ends of the floor, shooting, passing, dribbling, defense from the start of the game all the way to the end. I thought Central McLean played the best total game yesterday.
Right.
25-0. That means something. That doesn't mean that they've blown everyone out, though. They've been tested, and they've been in tight games and stuff, and so I'll be curious to see how that translates. A year's worth of work, and here we are 2 games away from their ultimate goal. But, as the girls found out, it's not as, it shouldn't be taken for granted.
Right. It's not a guarantee as well. You got to work for it. I think some credit has to go to Nelson County. That first quarter, that's where the separation was, but then they held their own a little bit through the end.
Yeah, and that's the tough thing about this tournament is, sometimes it's difficult to get out there and get comfortable. You're dealing with kids who are going through things for the first time. You don't know exactly how they're going to react, but they settled in nicely. And after that first quarter, it was a pretty even game, but, they spotted them 20 in the first half, and, that's the way it goes sometimes in the state tournament.
Our last winner yesterday was Medina Pingree Buchanan. We had their coach, Jeremy Weinmeister, on just a little bit ago. He described their team as like Rocky, just keeps on taking punches, but they won't give up. They're resilient, and that's what we saw yesterday. And Gage Hoffman was unbelievable. 31-20 is impressive.
Yeah, probably the single best individual performance, and there was a lot of really good performances yesterday. I mean, a 30-20 game in the state tournament, that's really unbelievable, and they really didn't have an answer for him the whole game, and so we'll get to see a little bit different matchup tonight, probably with him matching up with Aiden Hansen or something like that, and so we're going to see if he can do it again. Yeah, you're right. They're going to keep going until somebody blows a whistle here. So I'm really excited to see that game. I think it's their fans are really pumped up. They were loud and really emphatic behind us and stuff like that. So that's fun to see, and so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, there's no doubt it's going to be some fun semifinal games. I know you and we were busy watching these games, but you have helped call the Division A state tournament for the last couple of years. Their quarterfinal games were done yesterday. We get the semifinals set. Shiloh Christian got the upset. Devils Lake is still moving on. Central Cass as well, and it's been a fun tournament down there. Did you get a chance to look at the scores at all?
Yeah, I followed it on my phone as we were broadcasting. Really competitive stuff.
Yeah,
really competitive stuff. Really skilled skilled players, a lot of really good teams. I really think this 3-class system is working. It's really kind of highlighting the 3 different population segments. And that A tournament, I saw it was really well attended too. And so that's great. I think it's an overwhelming success.
I was going to ask you about that because we were talking a little bit about this yesterday. Going to 3 divisions, it's been a couple years now, but you can tell that was really needed for this state.
Definitely, yeah. I think what the Class B tournament was turning into is kind of a little bit more like the A tournament now. And they're really, it's just a different, like a lot of those schools and those programs are just kind of built different. They have different resources. They're they're positioned differently. And this is just what we want is the most opportunity for the kids and the most fair competition. And I think that's what we're getting, by far. I think it's an overwhelming success. It's a lot of fun. I wish I could watch both of these at the same time, but we'll do our best tonight.
We got to get the split screen going. One thing I've noticed, you and I were in Bismarck last week for the AA tournament, of course, here too, and we here at WDAY have been covering these tournaments for the last couple of months now, spanning a bunch of different sports. The level of athlete coming out of North Dakota right now is pretty impressive.
It's unbelievable. I mean, the way that these players are developing, and earlier than ever, a lot of freshmen, big, fast, strong. They're all in the weight room. Weight training's a non-negotiable. They can all shoot, pass, dribble. These teams are deeper. I like the fact that it seems to be like a few more kids are staying out, or at least the teams have been able to bring seniors off the bench too. At least the good teams anyway. I think that's a big differential. And so it's just very, very competitive. And I mean the way Century and Bismarck have developed. You're talking like 3-4 guys that are going to play in college basketball on either team. It's really unbelievable. It's really enjoying as a basketball junkie myself.
What'd you think of that tournament last week? We didn't get the chance to talk to you about it. That was something else.
I thought it was fantastic. I mean, it's honestly going to be one that I remember for a long time. I mean, that championship game and the way that Century played, I mean, they played a game of a lifetime. They had all kinds of questions going into that game, injuries everywhere. Almost every single starter was hurt. They had to expend a ton of energy to get to that point. And the question is, what do they have left? And credit to them. I mean, the amount of mental and physical toughness that they showed in that game to execute. I mean, I thought it was probably the highest level of execution I've probably ever seen in a high school game. Especially on the defensive end, to hold Bismarck out of 50 points. It was, you want to see the state champion go out and win it. Go out and take it away from the other team. And that's what we saw happen. I know Bismarck has high hopes, but they return a lot of players next year. And I just had a blast. It was a really, really good tournament, I thought.
Going back to what we were just talking about there, guys like Gibson Kinnebrew and Kalik Austin, the fact that they're going to be here for at least next year as well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, we'll get to do it all again next year, and they have the next crop of players come behind them and players that, maybe didn't have the role that they wanted this year, but will have an opportunity next year. And for really good programs, I mean, a bunch of kids that just really care about winning. It'd be really easy for them to, maybe pout or not be upset about not getting as many shots as they want or whatever. But I mean, those kids are about winning, and that's why they're part of great programs and with good head coaches, and it really shows up. I mean, they really handle their business well.
Who's your March Madness winner?
I got Arizona right now.
Yeah,
I got Arizona.
Me too.
Yeah, just I know the whole stat about the western half of the state and all, or western half of the country and whatnot. But I just really I always liked watching Pac-12 after dark, and with Bill Walton and all stuff like that. So I've always been a little partial to them. But I really think that they're very complete. And curious about some of the injuries, how that plays out with Duke and whatnot. But trying to zig while everybody's zigging. I don't think it's a big contrarian pick or anything like that.
No, I think that's a pretty common one. Duke left a little to be desired yesterday against Siena, so I don't know. I got St. John's going up over them anyway, so I'm hoping St. John's can pull out a win today. But that was scary there for a little bit for them.
I'm a Big East guy too. I love the Big East, and so I'm very partial to St. John's and all those schools out there too.
We were kind of following along. Did you get a chance to look back at North Dakota State at all yesterday in their matchup against Michigan State?
Yeah, I think it was just kind of a bad matchup for them. It got away from them a little early. I thought physically, in terms of mid-major schools, they're going to be able to put out a better product than just about everyone. I mean, they're the size, their front court, their ability to shoot it, their versatility. I think they kind of have about it all. It's just they ran into a really good team, really well-coached team, a team that's really tough. And I think if they had a different matchup, with somebody else, a different 3 seed, probably would have been a little different. But I mean, that should not overshadow their season that they had. I mean, they were dominant this year. They were really impressive. I remember, we did a game early in the year, and we were watching them and beat a really good Southern Illinois team, and we're kind of like, boy, they sure passed the eye test. You never know how it's going to play out and if they stay healthy and whatnot. But I thought this was Dave Richmond's best job. They really did a good job. I mean, the way he was able to bring a bunch of new players in that meshed with the existing players, not only in terms of style of play, but just their personalities and they really enjoy being together. I think that's the hardest thing in the portal is you're bringing a bunch of guys in, you just don't know how the personalities are going to, there's not enough time to really recruit them and develop a relationship. You kind of have to take flyers on some players and trust on previous relationships, but they've done a fantastic job.
I think that's part of the question now. How many of these guys are they going to be able to keep? What's Coach Richmond? What does his future look like? I'm curious on if this model is going to be sustainable for consistent success of bringing in new faces all the time. I just don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to lead to consistent success.
Yeah,
I think there's going to be some ups and downs, and I think really everybody, there's no 4-year plan. There's no 4-year development plan on any of that. It's a year-to-year basis, and people make decisions on a year-to-year basis, and at the end of the year, everybody reconsiders their options, and if you're not doing that, you're probably going to get beat by the schools that are.
Right.
And it's going to come down to the amount of resources that you have and the relationships the coaches have to be able to sort through the transfer portal and all the options out there. It's very, very tricky. It's a very precarious situation. There's a lot of different options. There's UND who, now all of a sudden has some access to some freshmen that they haven't had before. And so maybe that's the option. There's no one right answer. Mid-major basketball is going to continue to be in a very precarious situation. I mean, there's, tampering is rampant. And so I don't know. We'll see. The job has never been harder in a lot of ways.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt.
And so we'll see what the future holds, but I'm curious to see them pull it off. And, you can clearly see their philosophies evolve over the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not breaking news. It's just not going to be easy for mid-majors these days to compete with some of the big guns. I know you've spent a lot of time covering the University of North Dakota. They had a pretty good year this year, didn't they?
Yeah, it was really just not only did the team come together, but it was just a really enjoyable group to be around.
Yeah.
I mean, they really seemed to get together nicely. I mean, you have Grayson Ullman, walk on, redshirt, all of a sudden do what he did in the Summer League tournament. Just really unbelievable. Coach Sather just does a fantastic job developing players, as do a lot of these coaches in the Summer League. They really do a good job. I mean, these guys are really, really high caliber coaches that I really admire watching. But then it just comes down to retaining players, and what do? You take a younger player and give them the opportunity. And I think, the other thing is, I wouldn't be so concerned about going the young route. I mean, I know there are a lot of freshmen and stuff, but I mean, these guys have been playing AAU all summer and everything. The freshmen aren't quite what freshmen used to be. And so we'll see. It's going to be, they're going to have to reevaluate options at the beginning of every year, or beginning, basically right now. And that's where all the conversations are having. And, but yeah, man, you see schools doing advanced scouting on other schools and NIL agents around, and it's just, you kind of shake your head. It's just like, boy, I'm glad I'm not in the middle of sorting this out.
Oh, yeah. I know. It's crazy how fast all of this has come about, too. It's a completely different world than what we were used to about 10 years ago. We'll let you go rest your voice here a little bit. We'll get ready for the semis, and we'll see you back here in a little bit.
We'll be right back at it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Zach Dosch, our WDAY basketball analyst, joining us here on this Friday morning ahead of semifinal Friday inside of the Minot State Dome. We'll step aside on this Friday morning edition of Hot Mic. When we come back, we're talking about North Dakota State's Pro Day. We'll hear from Cole Payton and Bryce Lance on the other side. Well, if you're tuned in to our show yesterday, Dom was live from North Dakota State Pro Day inside of their indoor facility. A lot of guys from NDSU and beyond were working out in front of 28 NFL scouts in attendance. Cole Payton, Bryce Lance being two of them. Cole went through quite the throwing program, and it sounds like he was impressive, and Dom was able to catch up with both he and Bryce Lance afterwards and got their thoughts on the entire day. Here's what they had to say.
Simple question. How'd it go today?
It was awesome. It was a blast to be back out here and just put on a show and have a catch with the guys again. So
describe the plan you and Jake had going into this, and what specifically were you trying to do after what you did at the combine?
Yeah, I mean, so at the combine, obviously was able to, run the 40, do all the jumps and agility, and then the throwing section at the combine, there's only about 24 throws. There's not a lot of routes. There's a lot of guys, and then it's guys you've never really done stuff with, and so obviously you want to put on a good show there, but this is kind of the focus where you get, I threw 54 balls, and so just getting to showcase my arm talent today, and that was the main focus.
Just what's the last few weeks been for you? Obviously, you go from combine to this. Just what kind of feedback maybe are you getting from, teams?
Yeah, good feedback. Where I'll end up, when that might be, I'm not sure yet. You never know until you get that phone call. But have had about a dozen interviews with different teams and just meeting quarterback coaches and talking through ball, talking about my life and my come up and all that stuff. And so it's been great.
Obviously, a lot of former Bison in the NFL. Have you leaned on any of the former Bison QBs that are in the NFL for some advice at all?
Yeah, obviously being the closest with Cam Miller. Been on the phone with him a couple times throughout the process, and so he's been a great resource. And then, Easton Stick coming back and doing his camp every year. That's always so cool to pick his brain about this sort of thing and what it takes and his process. And so it's been fun to get to connect with those guys again.
Common question you've got from the NFL, Cole?
That's a good question. I think more at the Senior Bowl, it was that question of, can we use you as an athlete? Are you okay with that? Stuff like that. But, like I keep saying, as time goes on, changing that narrative. And I think today showed that I can throw it with the best of them.
How did you feel to get this is the last box to check to get this done today?
Felt great. Another box to check, like you said, and looking forward to, the next month and seeing where I end up.
What's your agent telling you about what's ahead, and what do you have meeting-wise planned?
Yeah, so got a couple visits planned. So actually headed to Pittsburgh this evening. I'll be in Indianapolis early April, and so, yeah, just have a couple private workouts lined up, and yeah.
You've said several times that you'd rather be a one-year starter at NDSU than be a multi-year starter somewhere else. Has this process kind of solidified that decision?
100%. Yeah, it's surreal being in this position, and I'm so grateful. Every kid wants to do this. Every little football player wants to do this. But at the same time, I expected to be here, and it's because I stayed at a place like NDSU and trusted the process and played in a pro-style offense and did all of those things.
Let your mind wander that hear your name called here in a month's time. Have you let your mind go there yet?
Like I kind of alluded to, it's going to be surreal. I don't think it's exactly hit me. This is what I've worked for. This is what I've wanted for my whole life. And so it's pretty surreal, but at the same time, I've expected to be in the position I'm in.
After you got done throwing, you guys were all kind of hugging it out in the end zone. What was that moment like? It's probably the last time you guys are all wearing green and gold.
Yeah, no doubt. Super special moment. Just like I said, a blast to get back out here. And, we had a few walkthroughs and throwing sessions with the guys prior to today just to get it sharpened up and everything. And so it's just been a blast to get to connect with those guys again.
What'd you kind of see from Bryce today? You guys looks like you had a pretty good connection.
Man, he's fast. I was saying he's like the only wide receiver I could never overthrow. Yeah, he's a freak, so.
Taking back to December, where you are now, where have you seen your game progress the most in your off-season, I guess we'll call it?
Yeah, my off season, I think of just trying to get my thumb healthy, and so that was the first half of the off season, and lucky enough was able to compete in the Senior Bowl. But then it's just sharpening up my footwork, being cleaner in my throwing mechanics. That's always the emphasis, and so working with Jake Heaps, out there in Southern Cal, and so that's been the emphasis for sure.
What was today like?
Yeah, it's just like the good old times with CP. So. Just got a few routes in and call through some great balls, so it was fun getting back out there.
So describe what your plan of attack was today. I know you did everything at the Combine. What was your goal for what you wanted to get done today?
Yeah, I think these past couple of weeks especially, I was just focused on my route running. That's something I know I can improve at for sure, and I'm happy with today's win. I know there's still things I can improve on, but that was just the main focus, was my route running for sure.
Seemed like people found out who Bryce Lance was at the Combine. So tell me, what's the last 3 weeks been like?
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind for sure. Super blessed, super grateful, learned a lot. But I've just been a sponge, honestly. It's kind of an unknown right now. Obviously, my brother went through it, but it was a little different because it was COVID, so it was a little different. But like I said, I've just been a sponge and just learning a lot and just working hard.
The decision to not do the All-Star game, how much did that pay off for what happened in Indianapolis?
Yeah, I think I'm happy with that decision, just to be 100% at the Combine. And, maybe people were questioning that, but after the Combine, I think a lot of those questions went away. So I'm happy with my decision.
What's kind of been the talk with NFL teams? Have you spoken to much, and just what's kind of the feedback they've been giving you?
Yep, just been on calls every day, learning a lot, like I said, and giving me a lot of tips and things I can improve on as well. So I'm super blessed and grateful to be in this position and have these opportunities. And it's like I said, it's just been a learning experience. So.
You said you've been through this with your brother once before. Has he been giving you tips and pointers and kind of coaching you through it a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit. Like I said, it was during COVID, so he didn't have a combine, so that was kind of my own thing, which honestly I'm not too mad about. I got my own thing. He never did a combine, and he can't say he's faster than me no more either. So, but yeah, he's been helping me as much as he can, and I'm super blessed and grateful to have him in my corner.
What do you remember about his pro day? Because that was a weird experience about what you had here.
Yeah, I remember it was in the Dome. I remember there was like not many people there. It was me and my family, maybe a few others, and then some receivers that weren't from this school either. So I just remember him being locked in and him killing it. But like I said, it's a totally different experience for sure.
What's the next month hold for you? What you got planned?
Yep, so got some visits. Like I said, I've just been on calls with teams every day and Zooms and things like that. But I'll probably end up going back to where I've been training out in LA for this next month and just preparing for the season. Now it's just training for football. No more 40s, no more jumping, things like that. So just getting better at football.
Has there been a common question, Bryce, you've gotten over even maybe since the combine about your ability or your play?
I can't think of a common question, honestly. I think a lot of it is just them trying to get to know me. And, obviously I think I'm a pretty good guy, and so that it really hasn't been too difficult for me to answer those types of questions. But no, I can't think of a certain general question, no.
Have you kind of let it sit in, what maybe that draft holds if you hear your name called and stuff like that?
Yeah, special moment for sure. I'm going to have a lot of friends and family surrounding me, so I'm super excited for that day to come around.
Do you feel like your performance at the Combine maybe helped take some of the pressure off of today?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I didn't have to do that testing anymore for one, and I didn't have to keep training for it was another, so it gave me more time to train for football stuff, which I was excited about too. So, like I said, now I can just focus on playing football rather than a few tests that determine a large part of your future.
So that's the last 40 you'll have to run. Yeah. The fact that you did it, I mean, just describe that.
Yeah, it was exciting. Right when I finished, I thought there was going to be a time up there initially, so I didn't see it. But I heard the crowd cheering, so I was like, it must be somewhat good. But yeah, once I heard what I got, I was like, all right, yeah.
So how late after did you find out what you ran?
Yeah, so I think they noticed me like looking up, and then the cameraman was like 4.34, and I was like, oh, okay, I appreciate it. And then that was that. So yeah.
Now, afterwards, Dom sent out the tweet, a couple of throws, a video there from Cole Payton at the Pro Day, and pretty high praise from Todd McShay, who is one of the NFL Draft's top insiders, if you will. It's a guy who knows ball, that's for sure, if you haven't heard of Todd McShay. He said he'd be surprised if he isn't a day 2 selection. In his opinion, Cole Payton is a QB3 on an NFL roster, which is pretty impressive, considering Cole Payton was a guy who knew he only had 1 year to make things work. He came out this season, he balled out. Of course, the season ended sooner than he expected and the rest of North Dakota State, but it's good to see what he was able to turn that opportunity into right now. It led to a really, really good combine he showed out at, and that meant that he didn't have to do a ton at Pro Day outside of the throwing. His combine numbers, unreal, a 4.56 40. To put that into perspective, I'm probably at a 12 flat on the 40 right now. You had a 40-inch vertical. That is insane, and a 10-10 broad jump. That's pretty impressive numbers for Cole. So athleticism-wise, I don't think there's any doubt on that. He's one of the more athletic guys at the QB position in this draft class. We'll see. We'll see what day that he goes. And then, of course, Bryce Lance, I'll be shocked if he's not the first FCS guy to go off the board, whether it be a round 2 selection or what have you. Also, a thing to note from yesterday at the Bison Pro Day, got to give a shout-out to Jack Strand from MSUM just across the river. He had a 50 throw program yesterday in the indoor facility. From what I read, he had a ball that was 75 yards. I think that turned some heads. Of course, 28 NFL scouts were in attendance. Gage Florence, Brady Perryman were there for MSUM as well, so he had some familiar faces to throw to who are trying to impress and see if they can get an opportunity at the next level. So best of luck to all those guys. Strand, he did well, 35-inch vertical right behind Anthony Shademi Alfaro yesterday, who had 36.5. So a lot of guys hoping to advance on and get some opportunities at the next level. The draft is end of April, the 23rd through the 25th. It's in Pittsburgh this year. We will have plenty of coverage here on this show and on WDAY Sports as we get closer, and on Inform.com as well. So be on the lookout for that. Plenty of coverage of the NFL draft coming up, but best of luck to all our local guys involved. Hopefully they can find some good spots and make the most of that opportunity. With that being said, we're due for another break, so let's step aside. When we come back, the executive director of the NDHSAA, Matt Fetsch, will join us, talk about everything going on in North Dakota, get a State of the Union, and get some updates on the future of state tournament. That's coming up when we come back on this Friday morning edition of Hot Mic. Back on this Friday morning edition of Hot Mic, there's a live look inside of the Fargo Dome. It's the calm before the storm semifinal Friday coming up. Those games start at 6:30 here in Minot. Our semifinal matches at 1 and 2:45. You can catch all the action on WDAY today. We are happy to be joined this morning by the executive director of the NDHSAA, Matt Fetsch. It's always great to catch up with you. I know this is an extremely busy time, but how the last couple of months been? You've been all over the place.
We have, yeah. I would say overall, to summarize, overwhelmingly about as good as it's ever gone.
Yeah,
so,
well, that's great.
A couple days to go here, knock on wood.
Right.
But, some light at the end of the tunnel. But, yeah, outside of, probably the biggest obstacle, which you seem to have every year, was there were some weather, particularly up in the northeast part of the state during the region tournaments. But everyone was more than well prepared and knew what lied ahead and got through it. But, overall, it's been outstanding.
Well, you and I were just talking off air about how quickly everything has changed, and it feels like it's the middle of summer right now. It's fantastic.
Yeah, walk outside here and drove by Corbett Field, baseball field on the way here, and it looks like they're about ready to go out there as well. So
that's going to be a busy place here coming up. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. I want to ask you, I see at these tournaments everywhere. Do you get an opportunity to enjoy the games, or are you go the entire time?
Yeah, most of the 3-day tournaments, there's for all my staff, wherever they're at, day one is very little public viewing, where it's more the behind the scenes or meeting with officials. Whatever comes up with ticketing or whatever.
Right.
And, but you get to day two, you get to see a little more. So kind of find a nice spot where you may watch a little bit. But it's like I said, a couple days to go here, but it's hard to believe we're already at this point.
I know. Tell me about it. This has been a really fast couple of months going through the state tournaments. Of course, we're live in the Minot State Dome today, which has been a really good home for this Division B tournament. What are your thoughts on the tournament here? And it seems like the turnout, especially for yesterday, just phenomenal.
Yeah, really good Thursday crowd. No, it's just a community that's always embraced this tournament, and it's very enjoyable for us to come here because everyone. There are many rookies here. People, kind of everyone knows what they're doing, and a lot of things you just don't have to worry about because they're taken care of. But no, I thought, as a society, it's really shifted to where as soon as a team's game's over, the fans, they're out of here in a heartbeat and on to their next endeavor. And it seemed like yesterday there were a lot more that took in both games, or they were back for the night session. So no reason to believe that won't continue, and the crowds will just continue to grow this afternoon through tomorrow night.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And I know we ask you this every time we get the opportunity to talk to you, but this has been a couple of years now in the 3-division system. What's the feedback you've been hearing and your thoughts on this? Zach and I were just talking about it. It is, in our opinion, worked out really well for this state.
It has, yeah. I think collectively, overwhelmingly positive would be how I would summarize it. I think the biggest thing you hear is just more teams. The ultimate goal for all of them, whether double A or B, is to get to this weekend or to the state tournament. And I think as a collectively, schools just think they have a chance. Where maybe a few years ago we got so and so in our region, and it doesn't matter how well we play, we're not going to beat them. We might beat everyone else, but so it's really it's just unique. And then to the those that have been following it for many, many years, it's different. You got, just in this tournament, your North Star in Nelson County, 4 or 5 seeds in their district and played the first round of the district tournament.
I know. It's crazy. It gives them that opportunity to make a run.
Something that would never have happened previously. And I think overall it has been a healthy thing for the state of North Dakota.
And we saw the 3-division system implemented for volleyball this year. How did that work out with that mega tournament, if you will, in Bismarck in the fall?
Yeah, I think, again, overall it was the competitiveness was incredible. Just I don't have any data, but I would tell you we had more 5-setters this year than we've ever had. It was just seemed like regular season didn't matter. Again, being fortunate to be in a venue-rich state and have the Bismarck Event Center this year. It'll be Fargo Dome in other years as well. But it is a lot of volleyball in those 3 days with all 3 divisions going. But I think the plan the board put together was pretty good, and it worked out even with all the 5-setters timing-wise. Pretty well, and we'll see if there's any minor adjustments moving forward or not.
We got another change coming up here too in the world of wrestling. Another girls division coming in. Is that correct? I'm not mistaken on that. And what was the thought process going into that to bump up to another level?
Yeah, so the Class B girls will have their own division next year. Currently, for several years now, we've had one division of girls wrestling, and really the tipping point, if you will, was the magic number is once there were at least a dozen B programs that could field a dual team with enough to dual. That was the tipping point, and at the end of this year there were 13 that met that threshold, so that triggered it, and it's just been incredible, the growth of the girls wrestling, and at some point it's going to have to plateau, obviously, but right now it has grown, and I would venture to guess this would maybe cause a little spike, especially in some of the smaller schools as well. So it's exciting. So you go back, a couple generations, and not often you add new sports or new divisions.
Exactly.
There's been a lot here the last few years.
You mentioned it there, and you see it right there with girls wrestling. I think elsewhere, the participation numbers have been pretty good across the state. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I mean, from the first year it was sanctioned, it within a couple years had 5 times as many wrestlers, and it's still been fairly steady, and again it was something you saw in some other states that had done the same thing, and you thought, well, here's what we project, and to see it come to fruition was pretty cool. And again, no reason to believe it won't continue to grow.
Zach and I were talking about this morning, and I think prime example is what you're seeing here this weekend with the freshman out of Ray, Ty Barman, and he's getting looks from major Division I football programs here, and he's really young. And we saw it last week at the AA, just the level of athletes that we were seeing in every sport across the state of North Dakota is really impressive right now.
Yeah, it is. It doesn't matter the size of school. I mean, they're everywhere. You look at the, your NDSU football. They've had a lot of success over the last decade and a half with finding those kind of kids and developing even more. And I think it just there's just a lot of opportunities for kids as well, with whether it's strength and speed training, so things that just weren't around. That's my excuse, I guess. Why I never got to that level.
Me too. I'll join you in that one.
But no, it is fun, and then those are the type of kids that there are all around the state that just bring out the casual fan that go check out that kid, and see a lot of that this weekend as well.
Yeah, especially here at the B and at the A. A lot of players, if you're just looking for something to do, tune into these basketball games. They are a lot of fun, no doubt. Again, Matt Fetsch joining us, the executive director of the NDHSAA. Always love talking about tournament venues. This state is rich with plenty of areas to go to. Where are we at right now with the tournament venues? How's everything been going so far?
Pretty good. That was probably the biggest challenge with the implementation of the 3rd division of basketball. You get, maybe a lot of listeners don't realize that weekend of the state girls tournament. You got your West Region basketball tournament going on. You're in Bismarck, your East Region in Fargo. We have UND with their new NCHC hockey playoff format. Pretty much every year going to be home that weekend as well, which kind of takes the Betty out of the equation as a possible venue. And really you're somewhat limited that weekend, but there are things on the horizon too. Actually, next week we're going to go take a tour of the new Bismarck State College facility that'll be opening soon. I think I heard they were actually putting the seats in physically this week.
Okay.
So they're getting pretty close, and we already have some volleyball regions planned there next year. I know there's it won't be official here till the end of the month, but I think some region basketball there as well. So just always exciting to check out a new venue. And often we get a lot of those calls when something is going up, where a lot of times, even though it's maybe a college facility, they're we want to host high school tournaments too. What do we need to do, or how big does it need to be? And they do the best they can. So some excitement there as well on the horizon.
Well, that'll be interesting. I've seen some pictures and the renderings of what it should look like. That looks like it's going to be quite the venue. When you go to places like that, what are you looking for? Just the capacity and if it can handle a state tournament?
Yeah, I think a lot of things, that's a reserve seating event, and some of those play in where, is it bleachers versus chair, all those kind of things. And I bring, I'm not the only one going there. I'll have a car full. So anyway, you can imagine.
Plenty of eyes on it.
And everyone we bring there is looking at different things, whether it be locker rooms or, signage for advertising, all those things that, like I said, aren't maybe at the top of my mindset, but for others, they're at the top of theirs. So, it'll be a lot of fun. And again, it's exciting.
That's great. Of course, this week, things are your travel schedule at least simmers down a little bit. What's at the top of the agenda after the basketball tournaments are done for you?
Big thing, we kind of roll right into meetings. So I have my board of directors has 5 regular meetings a year, and this year, last day of March will be their 4th one of the year. So we'll be prepping for that. As part of that as well, we have our annual General Assembly meeting where all our member schools attend the day before that board meeting. So any bylaw amendments, whatever else, nominations for future board members, more of a business meeting, but that'll be a majority of what we do. And then we talked about the weather earlier. We had I know Williston had an outdoor track meet yesterday,
That's
70 degrees, and there's years spring sports may not start till May 1st, but this year I think at least for a majority of the state, they're ready to get out, and they'll be going by the end of March.
It's not too often that spring season comes around, you're ready to go outside right away. So we'll take that any chance that we can get. There's no doubt about that.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, I appreciate you taking some time. It was a pleasure to catch up with you as always. I'll let you get to it. You got a busy schedule coming up, and have a fun weekend. Just enjoy all the basketball that you can.
Yep, appreciate the opportunity to visit. Same to you, Sam. Thanks for all you do.
No problem. Thank you so much. Matt Fetsch joining us here on this Friday morning edition of Hot Mike, the executive director of the NDHSAA. We'll step aside. When we come back, we'll put a bow on this Friday morning, get you ready for semifinal Friday and a busy weekend ahead. That's coming up when Hot Mike returns. Wrapping up this Friday morning edition of Hot Mike on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV in Sioux Falls, KNBN in Rapid City, also streaming on Inform.com. I tell you what, this has been a pretty fun morning. I appreciate you for sticking around here with us to wrap up another week. I've never done a show live on location. I've enjoyed this. It's been fun up here in the Minot State Dome. We got a busy day of basketball ahead. That leads into a busy day tomorrow of basketball. The same can be said down in the Fargo Dome. Of course, the whole country is fueled by college basketball right now with the men's and women's tournaments going on. There's just a lot happening. It's been a really fun 2 months. I said at the beginning of the show, I'll say it again, just want to tip a cap to all the guys behind the scenes that have been working so hard. You may have just saw Alex Mulvey walked by, one of our engineers. Have to give him a shout out. He's been working hard over the last couple of months to help keep us on the air. It's been really good, and we got crews everywhere here in Minot, down in Fargo. We had 2 events going on in Fargo, Class or Division A basketball and North Dakota State women's basketball we were putting together. We sent a crew out in Buffalo this week. It's been really impressive. I think everybody's done a bang-up job, and thank you to everyone who's been tuning along for the ride and watching these athletes do their thing. It's been really, really fun over the last couple of months. I think a break's going to be nice for everybody after the conclusion of this week, but we're not done yet. We're still rolling. So with that being said, that tees up a busy sports weekend here. Let's get into our what to watch before we get out the door here on this Friday morning. So for today, as I mentioned, the Boys B semifinals. We got the early ones up here in Minot, 1 o'clock and 2:45. That's when we will start in the Minot State Dome. It's Ray taking on our Redeemers, and then Central McLean and Medina Pingree Buchanan at 2:45. Boys A semifinals at 6:30 and 8:15. Be sure to tune into that. Central Cass, Shiloh Christian, and then Devils Lake and Beulah. On Saturday, we'll have the third place games and the championship. Boys A third place at 3, Boys A's championship at 5, Boys B third place on WDAY Extra at 6, and then the championship after that at 8 o'clock. So that's coming up today and tomorrow in North Dakota high school basketball. That's a busy schedule coming up. Of course, all the consolation games on WDAY+. Elsewhere throughout the weekend, keep your eye on SDSU and Washington opening up the women's basketball NCAA tournament, 1:30 on ESPN News. This is all women's games here for you. Nebraska and Baylor on ESPN at 1 o'clock, and Green Bay and Minnesota at 5 o'clock on ESPNU. Also, Jaden Hale from Horace and Gonzaga will be down in Minneapolis to open up the tournament as well. So a lot happening with the NCAA women's basketball tournament. Over on the men's side this weekend, you got March Madness spanning everything, CBS, TBS, TNT, and True TV. You got our state championships, and then the big one on Sunday at 1 o'clock on ESPN+, North Dakota State and Columbia in the WBIT. Should be a great game. Dom and Amy will be on the call for that one, again on ESPN+. If you got the opportunity to go to the Shack, go ahead and head on over there. That's going to be a fantastic game. Columbia is going to be quite the test. There's no doubt about that. So once again, as we say goodbye from the Minot State Dome this morning, I want to say a big thank you to Jeremy Weinmeister, to Zach Dosch, and to Matt Fetsch for joining us today, chatting with us as we're live again on location. Dom's going to be back in studio on Monday and recap everything that happened over the weekend. Until then, have a fun weekend, and we'll see you later on today from the Minot State Dome for North Dakota State High School basketball.